Pittsburgh, looming in the heart of western Pennsylvania, is very symbolic for attracting big-time sports. It was last year on the Allegheny River that over 200,000 people were not disappointed with Formula One tunnel boat racing, as these race teams gave the fans more excitement and thrills and left the impression with most drivers that this is now the #1 most dangerous course on the tour. But it was the survival of the fittest as number 5, Rick Adamczyk, led most of the race and showed why he has the upper hand as he waved the checkered flag. But not all drivers feel the same way.
It's a very dangerous race course, and you just never know what the water's doing out there, so you have to be on your toes all the time.
As time trials got underway on Saturday, it was Ben Robertson that took the pole for the upcoming 20-lap heat race as he qualified at a blistering 136 miles an hour. And as other drivers disliked the waters, Mr. Robertson had his own views.
And you've got such, I call good conditions, because it doesn't get too rough, but it just gets choppy enough to make a driver have to drive his boat. It's not something you just go out there and air it out and go around a race course. You got to drive your boat around this race course.
As the points lead is starting to tighten up, it was last week in Winnipeg, Canada at the Players' Championships that Steve D'Souza, number 94 of Interstate's Batteries, and Felix Arelis, number 88 of the Don Q Crystal team, battle it out on the Red River. But by 50 laps, number 88, Felix Arelis, held the checkered flag high in the air as he captured 2 of the 5 victories on the IOGP racing circuit.
The Bud Light Racing Series is brought to you by Mercury. At Mercury, we're driven to win. By Jeep, only in a Jeep. And by Ski Ray by Sea Ray. Set a world record. Own a Ski Ray.
Here in Pittsburgh on the Allegheny River, and Walt, it's a very unique way they set up this race format for the weekend.
Well, what they do here, Steve, is very simple. You go out and you do a one-lap qualifying. We had Benny Robertson qualified 136 miles an hour. That qualified him for the 20-lap event we're watching right here. Now he goes out and runs that 20-lap event. That will decide who starts on the pole for today's feature event.
Well, I think a surprise for a lot of people was this man, Mike Siebold. Now, he only qualified 4th fastest. He jumped out to an early lead. This man here, Greg Foster, qualified 3rd fastest, but he also turned in the fastest lap of the race at over 128 miles an hour.
And there's Ben Robertson. Ben Robertson fell out during the qualifying heat. Means he's going to start all the way at the back of the field this afternoon. But a lot of people set up differently, Steve, for the racing event. Also, we had number 5, Rick Adamczyk. He went over in the qualifying. We don't know whether he's going to run today or not.
Well, they forced a restart, and again, it was Mike Siebold who jumped out into the lead. Now, Walt, he had not won a race all season long, and this was stopped at lap number 14, Greg Quirk out of New York going over.
Well, it shows you how rough the racing conditions are here as young Greg Quirk, a 4-time international go-kart champion, takes his turn. We'll see right here how it all happened. He comes up to the corner, slams it in too hard, and barrel rolls it wide to the outside. Greg was not hurt, but embarrassed.
And Mike Siebold very happy about the day's activities.
It's the first time we have to run the 20 laps for the pole position, but I think the boat set up great. You know, it handled great. I mean, the water got rough just like I expected it to.
On a warm and humid day on the Allegheny River, it's round number 6 of the International Outboard Grand Prix Tour. Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Michael with my partner, as always, Walt Yarborough. Welcome to Pittsburgh for the Bud Light Grand Prix Series. And today, a new format. We're going to see 50 tough laps around here. Yesterday, they ran a 20-lap elimination race to decide the grid order, Walt. And Mike Siebold did a tremendous job. He put himself squarely on the pole.
Well, Mike Siebold came out on the Allegheny River with an absolute vengeance, running this weekend for Bud Light and Crown Buick GMC. He went to the front, wanted the pole. However, Steve D'Souza went out very quickly, then fell back. Didn't look like he had any problems. Maybe it was a problem, maybe just strategy. It's going to be an interesting 50 laps.
And don't forget about Ben Robertson. He has won this race 4 of the last 7 years, and he was 2 seconds a lap faster than anybody in qualifying. Well, the crowds are gathering. They're set to go. We'll be back to Pittsburgh to start it all off when we return right after this. Steve Michael with Walt Yarborough. Welcome back to downtown Pittsburgh in the shadows of Three Rivers Stadium as the boat drivers line up. Big field on hand today. Let's take a look at the point standings here in 1992 so far. We begin with the leader, Steve D'Souza. Right now a healthy lead, Walt, but right behind him, Greg Foster, Bill Siebold, and Billy Joel just chomping at the bit to try to move up.
And the 5th position is Felix Sorales, young man out of Puerto Rico. Then Scott Gilman, the 1990 champion, Mike Siebold, and Ken Davis out of Georgia.
Interesting to see that both 5 and 6, both of those drivers have won 2 events so far this year. Well, there's the top 10, and as we come back, great camera locations that we've got for you. We're all over the course today. Let's take a look at the starting lineups. As we take a look at the field, drivers now just moments away as they gather up their final thoughts. Number 6, we begin with Steve D'Souza, our points leader.
And D'Souza out of Augusta, Georgia. Right behind him, the 1990 champion out of Basalt, Colorado, the Chip and Pepper sponsored entry of Scott Gilman.
And starting in 4th spot out of Ponce, Puerto Rico, he ran a fast lap of over 118 miles an hour yesterday, Felix Sorales. Starting in the 3rd position, Bill Siebold, who ran at 121.3 miles an hour. He's out of Fenton, Missouri.
And your top 2 qualifiers, the young man out of Orange, California, Mr. Greg Foster, sponsored by the Pioneer Hotel. And sitting on the pole, sponsored by a local company, Crown Buick out of Fenton, Missouri, Mr. Mike Siebold.
And the remainder of the lineup, and also Tim Siebold, the 3rd Siebold that'll be in the race this afternoon.
And with Jay Price sitting in the 11th position, and the young man out of Australia, Mr. Neil Hancock, a long way from home.
This one of the most prestigious races anywhere in the world, and that's why we've got drivers from 4 different countries represented, ready to go toe-to-toe this afternoon. And of course, they're all racing for a lot of money, and the IOGP Series payoff well over $500,000. And then of course the Mercury Contingency Fund of $50,000. And don't forget about at the end of the year, now they also get, the winner does, a 19-foot ski ray and a Jeep Cherokee that worth well over $40,000.
And the man with the keys in his pocket right now to the 92 Jeep Cherokee and this inboard ski ray is Mr. Steve D'Souza, but there's others wanting to push him out of the way.
Let's take a look at the course, Walt. This a tough one, 1.3 miles around.
And it goes down into the Allegheny River and then back out towards the confluence of the Allegheny and the Monongahela. That forms the Great Ohio River.
And it will be roughest coming into turns 1 and 2. They're going to run into cross currents and also crosswinds. We go upstairs, 25 floors up. We looked at the south end of the circuit. Drivers now just moments away. Crews holding back the boats, and the drivers under a minute are psyched and raring to go, Walt.
And it's Mike Siebold sitting on the pole with 20 other drivers in there behind him, and here they go. Siebold having the inside advantage and inside line as they'll go underneath the Fort Duquesne Bridge and down towards the 6th Avenue Bridge as Siebold gets out very quickly down on that inside line.
Well, Mike Siebold, who won by 5 seconds in the race yesterday, the 20-lap preliminary heat, is going 4 abreast with the other drivers around a corner. There's Greg Foster, his father, Bill, and also Steve D'Souza, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
And that's how it lined up, but the inside position on the pole for Michael Siebold has given him the definite advantage as he roars out to the lead, and he's being chased by the entire 20-boat field in behind him.
They say it's the roughest, they say it's the toughest. Already you look at that course, it's chopping up. Right here will be a real factor for the drivers today. They've got to suck up and go very quickly through this tough complex, turns 1 and 2.
And as they go underneath the Fort Duquesne Bridge, the wind that's blowing out here on the Allegheny will actually compress underneath that bridge. They go into the shadows. It actually pushes the boat back down, and then it's pop up as it comes down. It's been raining a lot here in the Pittsburgh area, and the Allegheny is flowing tough down here.
Top 3 positions remain the same, almost a lap gone. The man on the move at the moment, Scott Gilman, has found himself up to 4th position. Steve D'Souza, Felix Sorales dropping back in the pack a bit.
And last year it was Sorales who fought it out with his teammate, number 5, Rick Adamczyk. Adamczyk ended up coming out the winner, but Sorales finished 2nd. Now he's back in about 6th position. But Mike Siebold seems to have it all dialed in. One of the real problems with running on a river like the Allegheny, when it flows as tough as it does, is the river surface will actually reflect the bottom. The contours of the bottom will end up reflecting on the surface of the river when the speed of the current gets up as fast as it is right now.
Something to mention, Walt, with the Siebold's 1st and 3rd at the moment here, almost 2 laps gone. They were here the latest last night. They spent a lot of time meticulously working on their engines. They didn't get home till way after midnight.
Now, burning midnight oil, as you say midnight, will generally pay off on Sunday afternoon. And so far, it's paying off for the Siebold team, sitting in 1st and 3rd. They got their weights, their balances, their tune-up. Everything is just right.
You're absolutely right. It's been picture perfect so far for the Bud Light team as B.B. Crum looks up, and the reason for it, the race has been stopped. Bobby Humphrey has had a Titanic accident over on the south side of the river, and this race has been stopped.
And you can see Humphrey disconnecting himself from the 5-point safety harness. There's the Stars Rescue Team coming in to pick him up. And look, number 77, Scott Gilman. He's out there waiting to pick up a tow. There's the crew chief for the Hooters team, wondering about their driver, Bobby Humphreys. Let's take a look at the accident, Steve.
On the right side of the screen, we see the Hooters boat launch off a wave, and then at 125 miles an hour, stuff it hard. You see the canopy blowing at least 30 feet in the air, and Bobby Humphrey at the moment, the concern of everyone as he's being taken off the course.
And as they tow Scott Gilman in, they'll get all the boats lined up very quickly for a restart, and here they go on the restart. Mike Siebold still sitting on the pole again, but number 94, Steve D'Souza, gets out very quickly, along with number 58, Don Johnston.
D'Souza, who had dropped back a bit in the opening laps, is getting a second chance here to roar, and he is doing just that, as he now has gone past Bill Siebold up into second place.
As the entire field spreads out across the Allegheny River, out comes the red flag. We had an accident just at the beginning. It was Greg Quirk who went over at the very beginning of the restart.
And it's been a bad weekend for the man out of Babylon, New York, Greg Quirk. And here it looks like he gets tied up with Robert Rofalco, the native out of Pittsburgh, and over goes Greg Quirk.
And Quirk, a very unhappy young man, but of course strapped in that 5-point safety harness. He is okay. They line up for the starting flag. Here comes the green flag, up and down very quickly. And number 94, Steve D'Souza, gets a very quick jump off the field with 88, the dark blue boat of Felix Sorrellis. But number 11, Michael Siebold, red, white, and blue in the Crown Buick, gets his jump down to the inside. But look at D'Souza as he comes across, begins to squeeze off the rest of the field.
D'Souza did a good job of shutting down the Siebold boat, of Bill Siebold, and now he has jumped off to a tremendous lead early on. What a great advantage for D'Souza.
As D'Souza takes off after him, here comes number 11, Michael Siebold, right behind him, the orange and yellow of number 53, Foster, but Foster goes through the escape lane. He may get penalized for that as he goes through the escape lane. He can't drive that way on the race course.
Well, a decision that Foster will have to second guess later on. We see Tim Siebold, the third member of that Bud Light team, trying to move up in the pack. He started down about mid-pack, and again we have stopped this race, and a boat has gone over one.
It's Louisiana native Jay Price. He runs for the Warren Savini Stiletto Racing team that brings out the red flag. He's being picked up. Let's see what happens in here. He tries to go inside of Bill Siebold. He turns it real hard on the corner, hooks his sponson down in that very rough corners 1 and 2.
So the 33-year-old has been racing for 8 years, is being escorted off the race course, and as he was being escorted off, this man, Bill Siebold, who qualified third, what a disappointment he is done for the day.
And as we go back to racing action after the restart, it is again number 94, Steve D'Souza, in the green and black Interstate Batteries that reestablished himself up in first place as he takes off down the race course, being chased by the rest of the field, as D'Souza in his Mariner-powered entry seems to have it really dialed in out here on the Allegheny.
And the yellow flag has come out one more time because of this man, Don Johnston, our 1988 IOGP champion. The boats are now slowing up. The pace boat will come onto the course. And we will be back to Pittsburgh when we return right after this. Welcome back to the Three Rivers Regatta here in Pittsburgh. Steve Michael with Walt Yarborough. And while we were gone, 7 laps under the yellow. Now the boats are coming out of the final corner. They will be looking for the green flag, and it will be up to this man, Steve D'Souza, to bring him through.
As D'Souza brings it around the corner, right on his outside hip, his number 11, Michael Siebold, out comes the green flag, and here they come. It is D'Souza in the green and black Interstate, then Siebold right behind him, with number 53, Greg Foster, in behind him. But on the inside, number 94, D'Souza in the green and black entry is able to hold off the hard-charging number 11, Michael Siebold, and going outside of him in the orange and the red is number 53, Greg Foster. But it's Steve D'Souza who has held on to the lead in the majority of this race so far that has been marred by a number of stoppages and yellow flags.
Well, the 38-year-old out of Augusta, Georgia, driving that green Burgess hull at the moment, our points leader for the total tour. He's got 1 win and 2 pole positions at the moment, very fast, but he can start to feel the heat. Mike Siebold is starting to dial it in back again, Walt.
And as the rest of the field continues to run somewhat tentatively out there on the race course because they don't know when another stoppage may take place. But Steve D'Souza has thrown all caution to the wind as the water begins to rough up on the Allegheny. He's running tight down to the inside, on the outside, and pushing hard is number 11, Michael Siebold, as Siebold just tries to power him past him wide on the outside, not trying to dive underneath him. But it looks like D'Souza still has some speed as they go back underneath the Fort Duquesne Bridge. As one more time, Steve D'Souza holding off the hard-charging Mike Siebold, as Siebold right on the spray on his outside shoulder. He is trying to power around him on the outside.
Siebold just broke the lap record here for this race at 122.2 miles an hour. Nobody else has reached the 122 mile an hour range except for him, and he is now trying to make a move on the outside in Clearwater against Steve D'Souza.
Because taking D'Souza down on the inside is almost an impossible task, but number 11, Michael Siebold, said, I've got the speed, I've got the power, and he drove hard on the outside to get around Steve D'Souza. Now will take over the lead here on the Allegheny.
And talk about a fast lap. Mike Siebold just set another one. 125.1 miles an hour. He has stretched his mark by 3 miles an hour in his chase, and then finally passing Steve D'Souza.
And it took a lot of overall speed to get around D'Souza, but closing up on the back of him is number 53, Greg Foster. Look out, Michael. He has set it right up on his tail. He's got it flying. His dad, Bill Siebold, on the radio with him. Now that he's out of the race, he's got some of the best leadership in the world on that microphone.
And Mike Siebold at the moment having it all his own way, but pretty soon he's going to have to worry about back markers.
And one of the things that Mike's going to have to worry about, can he maintain the speed that he's been maintaining all afternoon at over 10,000 RPM?
When you speak about RPM, these engines take a tremendous beating, and Dan Marcellus of Mercury High Performance will tell us a little bit about pistons and coating.
One of the more exciting things that we've done in '92 is we've added a high-performance polymer coating to the skirt of this piston. And what that does for us is substantially reduces the friction that the piston has as it runs against the cylinder bore. As you know, race engines run at high RPMs, high temperatures, and this really helps the piston to survive in that hostile environment. We've also gone to a new connecting rod. And in this connecting rod, we've polished out some of the high stress areas, added some more oil flow through this upper end, and then we've shot peened this all over. It's given us much, much better durability at the extremes of the high-performance environment. We've taken this same technology and added it to all our high-performance outboards, and we think that's been a real enhancement to the durability of our products.
And as we come back to racing action, Mike Siebold has extended his lead over Steve D'Souza by over 5 seconds. And Greg Foster back in third place. And a surprise, Tim Siebold, who started in ninth, has come all the way up into fourth place.
And now as this race continues on, Mike Siebold and the rest of the field will continue to burn down their fuel loads. They only have about 7 or 8 gallons on board, so that has really reduced the weight of the racing craft out there.
So the 33-year-old out of St. Louis, Missouri, the pride out of Lindbergh High School, who loves to fly airplanes and helicopters, is doing this here on the race course in Pittsburgh. Back with more right after this. Two-thirds of the race gone here in Pittsburgh this afternoon. Steve Michael with Walt Yarborough. We're glad you're with us. And our leader at the moment, Mike Siebold out of St. Louis. He has built up a 7-second lead over Steve D'Souza, the points leader.
And D'Souza there in the green and black, being followed by the red and yellow Pioneer Hotel of Greg Foster. But number 11, Michael Siebold, has continued to use, Steve, that tremendous speed he has. He's staying wide on the outside. He's running a long way around the race course. He's got speed on everyone. He doesn't care to show them. Now he just goes bang, and he's gone.
Foster is not challenging at the moment. He's 11 seconds off the lead. He is trying to close in on D'Souza. But this man right now, his biggest problem is A, making the boat finish, and B, making it safely around a lot slower boats on the race course.
And Mike Siebold is using the tremendous power and speed he seems to have over the rest of the field to stay wide to the outside. It's safest there for him. He's got the speed to dominate the field, and that's what he's doing. There's number 25, Bill Roscoe. He's pulled to the infield, and it's out of this race today.
Shame for Roscoe. He's raced here 6 times. His best finish was 4th back in 1990.
And now number 11, Michael Siebold, continues to force himself down to the inside this time because it was easiest to go around Neil Hancock, the young man from Australia, who had floated wide to the outside of the race course and moving very slowly.
Well, this race here in Pittsburgh has had a grand tradition. It began all the way back in 1984, and it would be very surprising, really, to see the Siebold name on the cup for the very first time. Between everybody in the family that's still racing, you got over 900 victories, but they have never won here in Pittsburgh, Walt.
And those victories have come all over the world on all types of race courses, but never here on the Allegheny, never in Pittsburgh. And now Mike Siebold has got it all set up to go towards the victory.
Well, the sunshine's come out. The fans are loving it here, and so is this man out in the lead. Mike Siebold continues to pull away. He is now leading by over 10 seconds, and this man back in 5th. That's boat number 88, Felix Sorellis, trying to reel himself back into contention because at the moment he is 5th in the standings.
And last year it was the Don Q Crystal team finishing 1st and 2nd here. But right now it is Mike Siebold out there in his Crown Buick GMC sponsored entry, Bud Light sponsored, red, white, and blue, and he is running it on the Allegheny.
Well, Walt, the boat coming into our picture right now is 32-year-old Greg Foster out of Orange, California. He is flying down the back straightaway. He is shown in third place on the course, but actually he has been docked a lap, and this is going to hurt him. He's ranked second in the standings for 1992.
Well, for every lap they continue to run out of the race course, they pick up 2 points, but the man who leads the most laps in that right now is Michael Siebold. He picks up an additional 75 points as he begins his climb towards the front. And there's Benny Robertson. He's moved up to 4th position. That's the #1 Cochran Pontiac sponsored entry, another local sponsor right here out of Pittsburgh.
Robertson has been magic on this race course. He's up to 4th. He started 15th. And here is our leader, Mike Siebold, once again as the sun continues to settle a bit in the west. The drivers with the glistening glaze on the water got to be very careful about going in turns 1 and 2.
And every one of these river boats and every spectator boat up and along the Allegheny River just full of people. Again, the crowd in excess of 200,000 people as number 53, Greg Foster, in the red and yellow Pioneer Hotel, goes down to the inside around one of the back markers, trying to close in on Steve D'Souza, number 94. But Benny Robertson has begun to close right up on his stern as Robertson tries to move up on the field. Number 11, Michael Siebold, running an excellent race out there on the course.
Walt, the difference between first and second, yes, it's a large one, 13 seconds, but for second, third, and fourth, we see him coming in the picture, just 5.5 seconds separating those.
And number 88, Felix Sorales, the blue and silver trim boat, trying to move up on number 57, Benny Robertson. There's the red, white, and blue of Michael Siebold. He looks in the rear view mirrors. He knows the field is way back there. He begins to listen. Is everything running well and smoothly? He's going inside and outside. Now he is taking just all the chances in the world. He is all over the race course and just full of confidence.
Mike Siebold currently sitting in 7th place in the standings. He wants a win today. His best finish so far in 1992 is a second in Minneapolis, and Walt, he's less than 3 pins away from doing that right now.
Well, with the white flag out, he knows there's only 1 lap left to go. He's heading down towards that very rough water for the final time, down in turns 1 and 2. Mike Siebold has stretched out the lead. He has earned this victory today. He went out to the outside. He drove hard. His whole crew there very happy about seeing what Michael's doing, because this will start his march towards a possible championship.
Well, Mike has won a carload of races in his day, including a very prestigious 1987 Harmsworth Trophy event in London, but this could be his biggest win since.
And his first victory since June of 1991 in Augusta, Georgia. Mike Siebold comes off turn number 4, a very happy young man. You ought to be able to see the smile right through the cockpit as the checkered flag, the black and white, comes out for the man in red, white, and blue, number 11, Michael Siebold.
So Mike finishes off with his first win of the year, and coming home and finishing third is a man who has won this race 4 out of the last 7 years, Ben Robertson. Finishing second, our points leader, Steve D'Souza, out of Augusta, Georgia. We'll be back to talk to a very happy man from St. Louis, Mike Siebold, right after this. The race course has grown silent here in Pittsburgh, and let's go down to join our winner. Here's Mike Siebold.
I had a problem with Steve because Steve was he had a little speed on me, but I could get him when we got into some rough and got into some traffic. I knew I could catch him at that time. And when you get the yellows come out, you know, everybody falls back in line. It takes a while before you hit the back markers where I could maybe get some rough water where I could get around him.
Yes, he looks tired, but at the moment he has moved up in the standings. He's now 4th overall. Steve D'Souza, with his 4th time that he has finished in the top 3, leads by over 400 points, Walt.
And Greg Foster able to hold on to his second place with Bill Siebold now in 5th position. Billy Joel in there in 6th, and in 8th is number 17, Ken Davis.
And Scott Gilman, who is making a gallant charge up the points ladder mid-season after winning 2 in a row, has now dropped back a bit, and it's going to be awful tough for him to capture the crown in 1992. Well, I'll tell you what, it was a lot of fun here today in Pittsburgh, but the season's long from over. We are setting up and we are heading off to St. Louis. That should be a lot of fun. We had a fun time here in Pittsburgh. We hope you enjoyed it. For Walt Yarborough, I'm Steve Michael saying so long, everybody.
The Bud Light Racing Series was brought to you by Mercury, by Jeep, and by Ski Ray by Sea Ray.